So the current Kia Carnival has been in our market for about 2 years now, which means it's a good time for Kia Philippines to give this car a mid-cycle facelift. You have to remember that the Kia Carnival is Kia's second bestseller in the Philippine market, and so to say that this car is very important is pretty much an understatement. And so with that in mind, I think it's a good time for us to give the Kia Carnival a first look. So one of the highlights of the current generation Kia Carnival is that though this is an MPV or a minivan, it managed to combine a few crossover elements like this black body cladding here at the front bumper, along with other chunky details to make this car more interesting to look at. That pretty much carries over to the facelifted version. So what you have here is vertical LED headlights which pretty much matches those of the Kia EV9, the new Kia Sonet, thus giving this Kia Carnival a much more stronger appeal. At the same time, ito kanang tiger nose grill has also been redesigned to give it a taller, boxier look. Again, to give this car yun nga a much more bolder and I guess a tougher look. So, in terms of the side profile, it's pretty much the same pa rin as the previous model. But what you now have here is an interesting set of geometric alloy wheels, again to match the cars in the Kia EV9, the Kia EV6. Basically, Kia's latest opposites united design language. So, yun nga, so you're gonna see here, strong character lines and this interesting pattern here with the satin silver finish here. And then, as you're gonna move towards the back, you're gonna see there full width LED taillights, which again, just like in the front end, have this vertical element to again give this car a tougher, sleeker appearance. So, yeah, in terms of the outside look, it's still pretty much modern, very sleek, with, of course, improvements to make this car a more striking MPV. So, in terms of the specs, by the way, for both variants of the Kia Carnival, they're pretty much the same in terms of the exterior features. Nagkaiba mo lang is that with the lower variant, the EX, you get 18-inch wheels as opposed to these 19-inch wheels. So, I think that's a good time na for us to hop inside the Kia Carnival to see what else has changed in the interior. So perhaps the biggest improvement I think for this facelifted Kia Carnival happens here in the driver's area, and that's because kasi in the pre-facelift Carnival, one of my biggest gripes kasi was, though the tech was okay, in terms of the execution for me it was a bit mixed because you had a nice infotainment screen but albeit in a small size, and then the niceness of the interior is somewhat disrupted by an analog gauge cluster which is a bit out of place compared to how digital the rest of the interior was. Now that's been addressed here, I think, in this facelifted Kia Carnival because as standard, what you now have here is two 12.3-inch screens, and it's now running, by the way, the newest connected car navigation cockpit infotainment system. So CCNC basically is Hyundai Motor Group's newest operating system, and you probably won't see this in some of the press releases here in the Philippines, pero the CCNC operating system kasi actually won a lot of awards last year, mostly because of the design of the interface, which as you're gonna see here, is this sort of tiled interface, which looks really nice, very minimalist. But at the same time, apart from the aesthetics, the more important part here kasi is, the infotainment system is so good. Ang sobrang ganda ng menu structure niya, it's logically laid out, and whenever we say responsive sa mga infotainment systems in cars, it's really true here in the new Hyundai Motor Group vehicles with this operating system. So it's really snappy, very intuitive kanyang layout. And as usual, of course, you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto here in the brand new Kia Carnival. Apart from getting a redesigned dash, what you also got here is a new set of physical controls. So, like in the Kia EV6, if you're gonna see my first impressions video of that car, what you also have here na ngayon is these set of physical and capacitive touch buttons which can vary between aircon controls or multimedia controls, which are basically going to be your shortcut buttons here for your infotainment system. So it's really good. Nice combination of physical and capacitive touch, so I like Kia for that. And then, you also got your a redesigned center console in which you now have here two wireless charging pads which can both fit large smartphones like a Galaxy S24 or like yung mga iPhone 15 or 16 Pro Max, mga ganun-ganun, whatever. So that's good. Then as for the rest of the interior, it's still pretty much the same. So the door panels here are still the same, but you now have here two-person memory for the driver's seat. Soft touch materials here on the top of the doors, a leatherette surface on the dash, And then also new for this facelift is this new black and taupe leather interior. So you have this sort of dark or almost grayish brown na interior, which I do really like and really helps in making the Kia Carnival a much more premium place to be in. In relation to those leather seats, by the way, you also have here at the front, just like pa rin in the pre-facelift Carnival, as you're gonna see in my review of that car, you also have here pa rin heated and cooled front seats. So basically, this is pretty much a fully loaded car at this point, itong Kia Carnival SX at least. So there's no more missing feature here from the global specs. What's only missing lang here, I think, is the Bose sound system. Though granted, this standard sound system is already pretty good, though yun nga lang the Hyundai Staria kasi gets a Bose sound system. But apart from that, I think it's a good time na ngayon for us to move towards the back seats, where of course in a car like this will always be the true main highlight. So yeah, as you're gonna see here at the back of the Kia Carnival, well, in terms of the creature comfort, it's still pretty much the same pa rin as the pre-facelift model. So what you got here are sunshades. Okay. And then you also have here heated and cooled seats for this, or rather for these VIP captain's chairs. And then just like before, you can move the seats sidewards then. And then once you move it sidewards, that's when you can move it all the way back for you to, of course, clear the panel here for the rear passengers. So once the seats are back here, that's when you can hold this button and bring the car to this one-touch relaxation mode. Let's move this front seat then. Yan. And the seat extends and okay, that's really good. So again, same amenities pa rin as before. And then yun nga, heated and cooled. So let's put on the cooling because ang init ngayon sa labas. Let's lower this armrest na rin. That's really good. Then you of course have your own sunroof here. Okay, ang liwanag nun. And yeah, of course, you can open the sunroof, of course, here at the same time. Then once you're done lounging, you can just press this button here. Solid. So that's basically 3.5 million pesos well spent for the brand new Kia Carnival. So let's move this na ngayon, then move it outward. Yeah, so you now have here a spacious aisle for the third row passengers to enter and exit. And speaking of the third row, what you have there, by the way, is just like pa rin before, you have space for 3 adults, so I would best keep it to 2. Pero even then, yun nga, as usual with the minivan or an MPV, those third row seats can truly fit a full-size adult like me. And back there, what you also have is a USB charge port along with your own sunshade. Last, in terms of the cargo area part, same pa rin yung kanyang cargo space just like the pre-facelift model because again, it's still pretty much the same car. And so therefore, those third row seats can fold under the floor. Of course, these seats won't fold under the floor because these are power adjustable seats. So these are going to be fixed in place here when you lower down the third row. And so this is a good time for us, I think, to move back to the driver's seat and talk about the car's driving experience. So a surprise, or probably perhaps to no one's surprise, the facelifted Kia Carnival still pretty much drives like the pre-facelift model. So that's not exactly a bad thing because if you're gonna read my review or watch my review of the pre-facelift Carnival, you're gonna find out how much I love that car so much in terms of the comfort, in terms of the efficiency, because this still uses the same 2.2-liter turbo diesel as before, but in this case, there have been minor tweaks to boost the power na ngayon to 202 horsepower and 440 Newton meters of torque. So it's around 10 horsepower better than the pre-facelift model. That's something that you're gonna somewhat feel, though negligible lang yung difference. But if you've driven the two models back to back, like in my case, the power difference is there. So this responds much better to your inputs. The 8-speed automatic here in this car is again just like the pre-facelift model. It's still pretty good, responds well to your inputs. It's very smooth, delivers the correct gear all the time. It's a really nice transmission basically. Itong kanyang 8-speed automatic. And it really perfectly matches the overall easy driving nature of the Kia Carnival. Then as for the handling and suspension, there's still no change. It's still pretty much the same pa rin as the pre-facelift model. And so therefore, you can expect light steering, though not overly light na parang sa mga Chinese car. This is still light but not overly light na parang you can twirl it with your finger. It's somewhat on the heavier side of electric power steerings, which is a good thing for me because I don't like my large vehicles to feel very light to drive. And then, yun nga, being a 2.2-liter turbo diesel, you know how much naman I love the Hyundai Motor Group turbo diesel engines. So here in the Kia Carnival, here in this facelifted model, it's still very quiet, very refined. Sobrang Pinoy yung mga diesel clatter noises niya. And likewise, the suspension's doing a really good job of ironing out the imperfections on the road. So it's all good in terms of refinement as well. The car's very quiet, not much road and wind noise enters to the cabin. Again, pretty much just like the pre-facelift model, which has been really good na nga in terms of the driving experience. Then, one of my gripes before with the Kia Carnival is that though in terms of the advanced driver assistance features, okay naman yung previous pre-facelift Carnival, ito ngayon finally gets the full suite of Kia DriveWise advanced driver assistance features. So you now get full speed adaptive cruise control. Well, dati naman you've got lane keeping assist and lane following assist naman talaga. Pero ngayon, finally, it's been matched with the full speed adaptive cruise control. So it's a perfect companion na ngayon even in long highway drives and even in stop and go traffic. And then you also now have here then the blind spot view camera, which whenever user turns signals, mag-a-appear yung left or right side ng vehicle into the car's gauge cluster. So I love that feature sa Kia Sorento. I also love that feature in some of the Hyundai Motor Group vehicles. And finally, it's now here in the Kia Carnival as well. One minor gripe that I have though with the Kia Carnival in this iteration, ito kanyang facelift version, well, it's not a gripe in a sense na there's something I dislike about the car, but it's more of a missed opportunity I think for Kia Philippines because itong Kia Carnival kasi in other markets, especially in the US and South Korea, meron itong hybrid version. And yun nga lang, while the 2.2 diesel as mentioned is a nice engine naman and one that I really love, it's a missed opportunity I think for me for them to not offer the 1.6-liter turbo hybrid version. So yeah, the Kia Carnival's I think a much better packaged car now in terms of features. The missing features before from the pre-facelift Carnival has finally been applied here to the facelifted Philippine market version. So it's now a complete package. There's no more missing feature apart from the Bose sound system, I think. And therefore, I do think that its higher price point na ngayon is pretty much well worth it as you're now getting primarily a fully loaded Kia Carnival that's pretty much, again, yun nga, as what you would find in overseas markets. So yun nga lang, while we're filming this video, we haven't had any word about pricing at the moment. So pricing will be announced at the launch mismo of the Kia Carnival, which is on September 20, basically when this video premieres. So we're just gonna be pinning down on the comment section how much the new Kia Carnival is worth.